This is part 1 of a guide for my UWSMTeach students, showing you how to do assignment 1 as far as creating a web page to deliver the resources that you've written goes. So at the moment I've just labelled this page Introduction Page. What I'm doing here is giving you a graphical structure to how you could create a website. So you can see that it says Introduction Page. We need to think about what might go on an introduction page. And we'd probably include a link to a teacher page and a link to a student page, which would probably, most likely, represent several pages. So first, let's think what might go on a teacher page. If you click to a link onto a teacher page, what might be on there? Well, basically, I'm looking for two kinds of sets of information. The first thing is for information for a teacher who was teaching your unit of work. If they pick this up off the website because you've created some really amazing resources, how would they go about teaching that unit of work? And for me, secondly, as the marker, how can I give you marks for creating a fantastic unit of work? So you need to make sure that you include all the information that you've thought about while you've been creating this unit of work. In fact, this page really sort of replaces a traditional lesson plan or unit of work plan that you might submit for an education assignment normally. So on the teacher page, you need to include the stage that you're writing for, and we've said in the assignment it has to be stage 4 or 5. So I would start by looking at the arrangement you've written and consider the prior knowledge that's needed for that and whether it's most appropriate to stage 4 or stage 5. Secondly, the topic. So look at the piece of music you've chosen to arrange, and if you're not sure of the names of all the topics, have a look in the syllabus for stages 4 and 5 and pick the one that's most relevant to the repertoire that you've chosen. Next, pacing. Now, I'm interested to know, with the number of resources that you've made, how you would actually teach this yourself over a period of time. So you might plan to teach this over 5 weeks, where you look at performance for the first few weeks, and then you do some wider listening and start the composition tasks, and then the last few weeks are a mix of all of the different learning experiences. Or some other way. Now, of course, we differentiate when we teach classes, so it's quite possible that you would intend this to be taught over 5 weeks, but it might take 3 weeks with one group and 7 weeks with another. That's fine. I just want to have an idea of how you're intending on going into the classroom and teaching this unit of work that you've made, just to check that it's realistic. And finally, any notes you can give me on your teaching. When I teach this unit of work, I do this first, I do that. You can make it up if you obviously haven't taught it before. But how you would intend to actually go in and deliver it, because the web page is designed to be a backup for a teacher who's coming who wants to use your resources, or a student who needs to come and work out what they need to do in the class. So any other approaches to teaching that you would take, you put in there. So from my introduction page, I'm going to create a link. And I'm going to show links in these little diagrams with arrows. So from my introduction page, I need a link to the teacher page. And now you know the information that goes in the teacher page. So next we need to consider what would go in the student page. Now, if I think about this, you could organize student pages. And as I said before, you might have a whole number of those. You could organize them by weeks. So in week 1, we will start learning the arrangement. In week 2, we will continue learning the arrangement plus do some wider listening and musicological study, etc. In week 3, we will continue practicing the arrangement, and we will also start composition tasks. That kind of thing would be a week by week example. That would be fine. You could do a page for each week, or you could do one very long page, as some students have before. Just make sure, though, that it is easy and clear to get around for students, and you're writing these pages as if you're writing to students. So you can be relatively informal, but you shouldn't sort of be too jokey, smiley facey. Another way you could do it is that you could do it in steps. So step 1, learn your part. Step 2, start rehearsing with a group. Step 3, do this listening. Step 4, and that, or maybe even step 1, do the listening first so that they know the song. Step 2, learn your part. Step 3. So that might be another way to do it. I mentioned that I, in many ways recently, have changed the online learning units that I've been doing from weeks to steps, or stages I called them, but I'm going to call them steps here so that I don't make a confusion with the teach page. And I've changed to steps because I find that, within a class, you've got a lot of differentiation to think about, and therefore an advanced student might shoot ahead and get to some extensions which you could provide as well, whereas other students who don't necessarily pay a lot of attention will wait until the deadline is upon them, and then they'll do all the steps, the night before kind of thing. So steps rather than weeks allows for that different learning styles, levels of organization, that kind of thing. And lastly, I'm suggesting that you could organize the student pages by learning experiences. So you could have one page for composition, one for performance, and one for listening. And in fact, that's what I'm going to show you now. So I'll move the student pages over here, and I need to have a link, of course, from the introduction page to the student page. I need to remember to make sure all of my pages are linked together. And so now I'm going to actually organize that to learning experiences. So I'm going to need to have 3 more pages that hang off the student page. And the first one is going to be performance. Since I've actually created, or you're all creating, an arrangement, that's going to be the first thing I'm going to link to. So I need you to create links to parts. The best way to do that is from Sibelius or Finale, whichever you do your arrangement in, to create PDFs. But if you can't create PDFs for some reason, graphic files are absolutely fine. You also need to have a method for assessment, and I suggested student self-assessment and reflection would best be done by just simply asking them at the end of each stage, step, whatever, each lesson, to reflect on what they'd learned. And you could get, a little bit more exciting and say, record yourself or your group practicing, and put that with a blog so that they can create a record of their progression. That would be excellent. And these 2 dot points that I've ended with question marks here, the idea is sort of ideas that, if you want to go on and get lots of extra marks and go for those distinction and high distinctions, that you might create a backing track to play along with. Now that's really easy, because if you've made your arrangement in Sibelius or Finale, you can simply export an audio file straight out of them. And then all you've got to do is work out how to turn that into an MP3 and stick it up on your website, which is very simple. Happy to help you with that. Just email me if you need some help. Another idea, way that you could make your website really amazing would be tutorial videos on how to play the arrangements. So for instance, if you've got specific chords for a guitar part or a piano part, you might be able to create diagrams or tutorial videos showing how to play those things. Any resource that helps the learning will definitely get credit in this assignment. So that's the first page, perform. I'll just move that down, and obviously that needs to be linked to from the student page. Now the next page that I'm going to create is going to be a compose page. Now it's kind of up to you what you do here. You could simply get a pass mark for creating a page and just writing on it, everyone has to compose a piece, I don't know, which has got a similar structure or chord pattern. Whatever you decide is a related composition task. However, again, if you want to go for the higher marks in this assignment, then create templates for composition, like I've shown you with GarageBand files, which are either template files for improvisation, or maybe I've showed you how to create loops, and you can create loop libraries so that students can remix a particular song that you're performing. I've also suggested here that you could create tutorial videos, which would be screen capture videos using programs like ScreenFlow or Jing, on how to do specific tasks. So it's up to you what your composition task is, but those are some ideas there for making it really good. So I'll move that over to the side and draw a link to that as well from the student pages. And also let's create a listen page. Now, in listening, you could argue that this is the best thing to start with, because if it might be easier for students before they start downloading parts and performing the arrangement that you've made, for them to actually get to know the piece. But either way, you want to create a certain amount of background information. You can do that through links to other reliable websites. Do remember that Wikipedia can be written and edited by anyone, so it's not reliable information. But they don't necessarily have to be academic papers. If you find a particularly good sort of scholarly website which has got interesting information, or even just lots of chord charts and things like that, that could be a good thing to link to. YouTube movies for repertoire. I've taught you all how to embed YouTube movies into your WordPress pages, and it's easy to do as well for Tumblr and for Blogger. So having YouTube movies of the actual repertoire, so the piece that you've arranged, so they can get to know it, and perhaps related repertoire or extension activities for students who finish everything that you've set them might go on the listen page as well. So there you go. That gives you a good idea of the kind of outline for the structure of this particular work. So we've got an introduction page. We're making a link from the intro page to a teacher page where we're going to outline exactly how it is that this unit of work would be taught. And we're going to have another link from the intro page to student pages. Now it's up to you how you organize that. You could have a single page for week 1, week 2, week 3, or step 1, step 2, step 3. Or you could do it like I've suggested here via learning experiences. And I have to say, I haven't done an example site with learning experiences, but it just occurred to me that that's quite a nice way to organize it and put your resources together. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy making the assignment, and there will be a second video now showing you how to actually physically do this in WordPress.